Hi, my presentation today is an idea I'd like to bring up, and that is, should anyone need a license before becoming a parent? I personally think it is a great idea, although I'm sure it's not something that is in the immediate future, because as we all know, kids don't come with a manual. It would be great if they did, but we sort of have to learn as we go. I tell a story to my kids, a thought for them to think about, to realize how deep your love as a parent goes. I tell them that if the Grim Reaper ever came to the front door and said, "Give me one of your children or yourself," I would step forward without a moment's hesitation, because you're immediately tied to the child and your heart is in it forever. There's no letting go once you have that child. My neighbor had a funny moment the other day, or I thought it was funny, but I'm sure she didn't. She's had her third child, and even though she's somewhat of a seasoned pro at it, she was overwhelmed, and she made the statement that said, "What have I got myself into?" And it just sort of stuck in my head since I was in the middle of writing my presentation here. There are so many areas that we need to work on and help our children to grow that I don't think we're fully aware of it until sometimes it's too late. So I know I've done incredibly stupid things as a parent and made the statement, "You don't need a license to be a parent." It would have been great if I had a little preview of what was to come. When you have a baby that's born to you, they're completely helpless and reliant on you for everything. So you're required to take that child from a baby to adulthood. It's an incredibly daunting task. It's uncharted territory, and there's landmines along the way that blow up unexpectedly. To me, if we had some type of training and course, knowledge is power, and power is control. And control, not being a bad thing, would help us reach the areas that we feel are important for our children as they move forward and grow. You might do many things differently along the way if you had a sort of a view into the future of what was to come, and many people might decide that it just wasn't for them right now. You have shows such as Teen Mom, which are ridiculous in my opinion. They have children having children. They clearly, for the most part, don't know what they're doing and are way out of their element. There's a quote that I often go by that says, "You should not be having your childhood while your child is having theirs." Unfortunately, I know some adults that don't quite adhere to that theory, and it's usually a disaster for the poor child. And a lot of times we have grandparents that are raising children. 2.4 households nationally have grandparents as the head of household, which my question is, where have the parents gone? Many times, sadly enough, there's death, but oftentimes they just abandon the children because they can't handle the pressure, whether emotionally or financially. They're too selfish, or they have their own problems and addictions, and they're just completely unfit. And the emotional toll on the children and the grandparents is large. A statistic I wanted to let you know that I forgot was that annually we have $7 billion spent a year on teens and the child once that child's born. And yearly there's 750,000 teens having babies. That's a lot of children being born, a lot of children having children, and a lot of money spent. Imagine if we took that money towards educating the teens. And one of my favorite advocates on children and child rearing is Dr. Laura Schlesinger. She's a talk show host and a doctor, and her theory is basically, if you can't raise them, don't have them. And I just love that theory. She's a little bit strong on her viewpoints, but she's very passionate about children. And she wrote a great book, which I have a copy of, and that I intend to pass on to my children. And it says, the title of the book is "Stupid Things Parents Do to Mess Up Their Kids' Lives." Has some situations that are potential, and it's just, again, great to be aware of those. And I'd like to close with a simple theory that says children need your presence more than they need presence. So children are our future, and if we can do a good job with our children, we're sending a bit of ourselves into the future. Thank you.